This is my dad's garage. I bet you're wondering how myself and all of these boxes got here. While I might have struggled for the first year of Delta Lead with product market fit and getting things off the ground, my first business was even uglier. I call it my entrepreneur university, laughing while shedding a tear inside as it ended up as nearly $30,000 down the drain. In today's video, I'm going to break down my journey through my first business where I know things went wrong, and then actually share the top 5 lessons that now have me on track to reach at least $120,000 this year with Delta Lead. And with that being said, I've got a special presentation prepared for you all. So this is the story of how my first business failed. So it all starts with the beginning. I was sick of working my 9 to 5. For some of you who may have watched the raw reality of 10K month video, my first job was focused on cold calling for a point of sale hardware and software company. And I was absolutely depressed beyond belief. I hated making those cold calls every day, hated not getting any sunlight, seeing no friends. This was during COVID. So I was just stuck, quarantined, dialing. It was an awful time. I was honestly very depressed during this time. This might have been one of the most depressing points in my life. Now, my girlfriend, now wife, had always talked about new ways to bring in passive income. We were just kind of chatting around the ideas of, maybe even creating a business or just looking for new ways to get some recurring revenue. Now, one that actually stood out was Amazon FBA, which stands for Fulfilled by Amazon. It's basically where you get products and you send them into Amazon. They hold those products as inventory, and then you're actually able to sell them to customers, and Amazon will fulfill them for a fee per product. Now, we were actually learning from a couple people about this. Their name were Stefan and Tatiana James. They were both a husband and wife who had gotten into Amazon FBA and also talked a lot about entrepreneurship. So they were a great insight into my first entrepreneurial journey. Now, I had only worked in corporate for 5 months at this point, and I was already fed up. I was already absolutely done. I was like, there's no way, even growing up as a kid, I was like, there's no way I'm going to sit somewhere and work for 40 hours a week doing this. I always dreaded it leading up to it. And sure enough, when I actually got into the corporate world, I hated it. It wasn't for me. So I wanted time, location, and financial freedom. And I actually had some money from my parents that I got after I graduated, and I decided to give it a go. So I decided that I was going to go all in, right? I also figured that I couldn't really do this on my own. I had no prior experience being an entrepreneur, no experience starting my own business, no experience even trying to, sell something on Facebook Marketplace. I've never had even sold something that I had owned as a kid or even growing up. So I definitely wanted some help throughout this process and ended up joining a program called the Amazing Selling Machine. I paid around $5,000 for it. And basically what it helped me do is it build the foundation of my business. It was courses with like some communities and just like a bunch of people sharing wins and badges and all that good stuff. So basically I was learning about the foundation of the business. I was learning about product selection, how to actually select a great product, sourcing products from Alibaba, from China, and then setting up my listing, copywriting, images, all that good stuff, and then actually managing my products within Amazon. So I ended up selecting an office footrest as my first product since I thought that there were so many people, spending time at home. I knew myself. I was spending a ton of time at my computer. I definitely figured that other people were doing the same and they'd want something to make it a little more comfortable. So with that being said, this is actually the first main product image that I ever use. This is still on the listing that I guess exists till this day. But you can see I have the GMM Accessories logo down there. And basically, this was my first product, right? So when it comes to actually selling, here's some information on actually when I made the first order. So I placed an order of 1,000 units in about January of 2021. This was actually, around that time, January 2021 for $9,000. This actually included shipping. So it was about $4,000 for the products. And then during the time, it was like during, I think, some sort of Chinese festival or some sort of event, the shipping started to go through the roof. And I ended up paying about $4,000 to get my product shipped overseas. So yeah, pretty expensive initial lesson. And I was actually up and selling at around March 2021. So the products had arrived at Amazon, things were getting set up, and then I actually was able to turn on my listing. So I had actually a focus on basically running advertising for medium to low traffic keywords. If any of y'all know anything about SEO, basically I was competing with keywords that didn't have a lot of high bids on them, but I could still get eyeballs and still get traffic. So I was focusing on those types of keywords. But when it comes to advertising, this is something that would actually come back later to bite me, which I'll share with y'all here in a little bit. So I was selling the product for around $24. And after the first month, I actually made around $3,000 in revenue, but no real profit due to something that I actually found out that was soul crushing. So I wasn't really making profit, especially due to some of the advertising. But what I'm about to share with you really just was the first time it just made me sick to my stomach. What I found out is that my product was too big and it pushed it into the oversized category, which means that I was actually paying around $15 to Amazon per product being sold rather than $6, which I had based all my calculations off of. And I have kind of an image here I can actually show y'all as from one of my, I forgot the name for it, with one of the product images, right? This was the packaging that my product was in. I was giving away a warranty with a QR code into a funnel, which I can talk about here in a little bit. But this was my packaging. The footrest itself fit into the actual dimensions, but when you actually had the packaging, it was too big. They were calculating the handle. They were pulling out these guys. I mean, I should have known better. I was so frustrated. When they measured the product, they actually pull it out and measure it with a laser to ensure that it's actually they're getting the right measurement. When this was actually, it could have easily fit in that category. It just, the actual sides and the corners would puff out. So this was beyond soul crushing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I tried getting them to remeasure, couldn't happen. They remeasured it twice. It still came into the oversize. So what I ended up having to do here was basically I had to pull around 900 of my products off Amazon, which I had to pay around $1,500 to do so. So now comes the journey of repacking. And here is actually one of my second products I'll talk about here in a moment. So during this time, I actually got a new role at an Amazon agency. So this is actually when I had experience with e-commerce, had experience with sales, I wanted to reach out and start working in the space, right? I was passionate about Amazon, passionate about e-commerce, wanted to learn more. And I really found this to be a fantastic synergistic relationship. I got to learn more about Amazon listings and what does well on Amazon while also improving my sales skills. Now, little did I know, I still had ambitions to actually go in and continue to be pushing hard on my e-commerce products, getting things up and running, getting new products launched. But I was working so much here, and it's kind of an excuse me saying that, but I just moved so slowly, glacial speed. I made no progress in my business, for like 6 to 9 months, very, very minimal progress. So, but basically during that time, my main objective was getting the footrest actually repacked. So, and also launch a second product to basically generate more revenue. So when it came to repacking, I don't know if I have any images here that I can show y'all, but basically so when it actually came to repacking, I have a video here for y'all that I can actually share of me displaying what I wanted to do. And it ended up working out, but let me go ahead and show you here. I'll turn the sound up. Right here. I was talking about how it was oversized. It's beyond janky. And then having it wrapped in kind of like a tight plastic film, and then have it just relabeled with like my FNSKU. So this is kind of what I'm planning on doing. So what do you think? So as you can see, that plan actually ended up working. So the memory foam would expand back to the right size over time. And basically I had them fold majority of the products. We ended up leaving the packaging on it because it worked fine, and then wrapped them with some tight plastic, and it actually got it into the lower size category. So that was super exciting. But again, it just took me a long time to actually get those products back into Amazon. So this process, it took me over 9 months to do this. Like I was saying, like it took me forever. So I ended up having about 500 of the footrests picked up to be repacked. And then also after going through nine samples of my armrests, I finally decided on a model. And as you can see, I wanted to have a bit of differentiation, to have a bit of a unique mechanism to make myself stand out. And I actually added zip ties to the bottom of my armrest. It's actually a fantastic product, but I'll talk about why it didn't go exactly as planned here in a little bit. There's a few different little arcs here that are kind of developing, but it's really been a pretty crazy story. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but with that being said, now we're getting on to disaster. So during this time, I was actually starting up Delta Lead. This is around November, December of 2022. And I had the idea to start Delta Lead. I wanted that time, location, financial freedom. And I also wanted bigger margins. I kind of went into Amazon thinking I would just, get a bunch of recurring revenue, just pay money, put products up. But at the end of the day, most e-commerce brands only take home about 10 to 20% of revenue as actually profit, like in their pocket. So I was definitely a bit delusional kind of going into that. But with Delta Lead, I knew I was offering a service. I wanted to have those higher margins for actually delivering service, right? So, but during this time, I was actually working 4 jobs. So the Amazon agency, Startup Accelerator that I was working back at my hometown, Delta Lead, and then Amazon FBA. So I was doing 4 different things. I thought I was so cool, so slick. But honestly, I was stressed F out and freaking broke. So I had to pay almost $2,000 to get a portion of my footrest back onto the market. This was getting them picked up from my warehouse, getting them repacked, and then actually paying fees to get them back into the actual Amazon warehouse. And I also had to make sure that my armrests were doing okay during this process. I ended up relaunching my footrest. So I already had some good momentum built with advertising in the past. That was gutted. My product was off the market for like almost 9 months, more than 9 months, right? And I had to build a ton of momentum up again using ads. And this is kind of where things started to get out of control. I was a little bit sloppier this time when I set up ads. I set up a set of ads as well for my armrest. I was managing 2 different ad accounts, and I was selling product, right? It was going through, I was getting revenue, but I was actually neglecting the ads and was paying between $200 to $800 a week on ad spend. And this was more money that I was spending even past the revenue that I made. So I was coming out of pocket $200 to $800 about, actually not every week, around every 2 weeks. So it was absolutely brutal. At that point, I was pretty much out of money for my parents and then stuff that I actually saved up from the Amazon agency role. So I actually just, pulled the plug on the ads and just really let the organic sales dwindle out. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and share a recap of my experience, what I know went wrong. And then after this, I'm going to share the top 5 lessons that I actually learned that still ring true to my business today. And it's helping me work towards making at least $120,000 this year. So the first piece, I'm going to give kind of a breakdown of what I did. I built a website outright. I built tons of Facebook Messenger automations without any traffic. So that was kind of the QR code. I'll pull it up over here. People would scan this QR code in the middle, and then they'd be taken to a Facebook Messenger chat that would kind of walk them through. It was actually a pretty cool process, pretty cool automated process. But and they would be able to claim their free warranty, and then I would also collect their email to eventually do email marketing. But I wasn't really getting much traffic through that because I wasn't really selling anything for like almost a year, right? So built that out. I didn't take enough time to really research that product market fit and like establish demand. I was like, oh, people are at home during COVID. They want to sit at their desk. It's amazing. It makes total sense, right? And that's I feel like that's unfortunately how a lot of business owners really decide to create a business nowadays. But I didn't really understand, who was going to be using it. Was it, 40 to 50-year-old moms? Was it people who were struggling with back pain? How many hours a day were they spending at their computer? I didn't do any of that research. I was like, let's do it. It sounds great. There's some sort of demand there in the market. Let's go ahead and launch it. I took too much time once I actually decided on a product, ordering samples and being slow to respond to suppliers, it honestly became a little bit of like a action faking, especially when I was doing stuff with the armrest. Like I said, I went through 9 samples. I was talking to them. I sent a message saying, oh, let's move on next steps. And I'd say, okay, I did everything for the day. We're good now, right? And then I just would wait to the next day to send one more message and move things along. It was so weird. It was like I was getting some sort of dopamine from making a little baby step, but I could have done way more and actually gone on there and had conversations and was being really slow to respond to suppliers. Now, I also was not monitoring advertising daily, which is at least very important to do from the start. I wasn't turning off the campaigns that were, hitting the wrong keywords, not getting any sales, and it was just draining money. And 3 months in, I actually started to work to launch a second product. Like I said, took 9 months to actually do so. And I did start to bring in some revenue, right? I had a 3K month. I even actually had a 5K month at one point, but then I neglected the business. So, the one thing that I didn't do throughout this entire process? Make profit. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I lost nearly $30,000. Now, of course, I can say that, and I'm glad that I'm survived and still being here, but to some degree, when I say that this was my entrepreneur university, I'd say this is probably the cost that I paid to learn lessons that I needed to learn. I do not want you to learn these lessons the hard way. So what I'm going to share with you now is the top 5 lessons that actually still hold true to this day that I learned from this business, to where I don't have to go through this again. You don't have to go through this again. We can all learn and create amazing, happy businesses. So that being said, let me go ahead and get out of this presentation. So when I'm saying all this right now, I'm actually going to be kind of talking to myself, because this is the advice that I'd actually give myself. And this advice would also be helpful for you, of course, but I'm going to be talking to myself because this is the stuff that he needed to hear at the time. And I think in doing so, it's actually going to be something that you might need to hear as well. So lesson number 1, market research. When it comes to market research and really getting that product market fit, do not rush through this process just to get to selling. It's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. If I'm given 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. This is incredibly important that you actually do your homework first to know who you're going to serve. This person is the foundation of your business. Like, you cannot build a skyscraper that reaches, the heavens if the foundation of it is built upon mud and sand. You need to make sure the foundation of your business is absolutely solid. And this is something that I just rushed through thinking it didn't matter. Even with Delta Lead, the first 9 months of my business going into it, didn't really having an avatar, didn't really niche down. This is critical to everything. This is what businesses are built upon. So I needed to understand the who I was serving, the specific niche, what problems they had. This part is incredibly, incredibly important. So number 2, which actually ties into number 1 a bit when I say take your time. When I say take your time, I don't mean take forever. I don't want you to say that I'm being a perfectionist when in reality, it's disguised as procrastination. You need to make sure you're actually taking action and moving things forward. Like I said, I would sit there and take forever to respond to suppliers, take forever to go through the modules I needed to go through when I had the time. I was avoidant. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to get into it. But if I had just sat down, maybe even just 2 days on the weekend, right? One day on the weekend, blocked out 8 hours and just went through and did a ton of work, I would have made so much more progress. So don't take that little advice from me before. I need you to remember, man, you took 9 samples and 9 months to get your armrest up to market. By that point, you had entirely missed the window. There was no longer search demand. So when I took all that time, putting it together, trying to be perfect, I was really just procrastinating, a fear of failure and putting those products up on the market. So remember, bro, talking to my past self, you got to move. You got to take action. There's no way to get around that. That is a really, really big lesson there. Now, lesson number 3, stop neglecting the things that you know you need to do because you're afraid. I understand that it was difficult to actually get in there and look at the advertising accounts and be scared to see how much money was leaving your bank account every single day, how much money you owed to Amazon, seeing those red numbers. I understand how scary that it was, but it's no excuse to ignore it, to not look at it at all. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's actually going to take you in the opposite direction. So taking responsibility, take ownership of that process and do that hard work, especially when you don't want to do it, right? And this lesson comes back to me today, doing the cold outreach when I don't want to, writing the posts when I don't want to, writing the email marketing. There are going to be times where I'm afraid what people think. This is kind of bold. I'm making some pretty strong claims. I'm kind of putting myself out there. You just got to take action. You got to stop caring what other people think, especially yourself in some cases. It's of course important for you to care and love and appreciate yourself, but you can't let your fear and your doubt stop you from taking action. Now, number 4, don't try to do too many things at once. I know, man, you're wanting to show up, you're wanting to impress, you're wanting to knock it out of the park. You're wanting to say, I run this business, I do that. It sounds great to the ego, but let's think about our day to day. You remember the stress, frustration we're going through every single day. You're having to create social media, like manage a website, go and do ads, launch 7 products. And then especially if we're talking other businesses, going and doing outreach, going and do all this, keeping commitments to other people, whatever that may be, you're going to get overwhelmed. Don't try to do so much. This is why high impact tasks, the 80-20 rule are so important, so valuable. I really want you to focus in, man, on those top things that are actually driving revenue in your business, focusing on those ads, maybe making some tweaks to the copy, just doing more marketing, getting the word out there, making content around the products. You just got to stay focused. When you're doing so many different things, it might feel good. It might feel good to get the validation from others, man, but it is not going to feel good when you are sitting home, in your bed, worried about how you're going to pay the bills, worried about how you're going to, actually sell your products. What are you going to do to get out of the debt that you have? Paying Amazon every single freaking day for these ads. So don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Now, number 5, execute. Man, you had the cards laid out in front of you. You knew exactly what to do. You just did not take action. You let the fear, you let the doubt, you let the avoidance, the procrastination, the perfectionism, everything I just broke down to you, you let it stop you. You know what you needed to do. You just didn't. It can be pretty frustrating. I know. I know you're probably feeling pretty bad at this point. I'm being pretty harsh on you, but this is stuff that you need to hear. You needed to know these lessons. You needed to be able to actually execute. That's how you get things done. You cannot simply think and grow rich. You cannot simply put products up on Amazon, expect them to fly off the shelves, and you're a millionaire, you're rich. Every single thing takes time and effort and dedication and sacrifice to get good at. But you have to actually execute. So that being said, I really hope y'all found this video helpful. Give a pat on the head to my younger self. It's okay now, buddy. But I'm sure a lot of you can actually relate to a lot of those lessons. And there's still some of those that can resonate true to what I'm dealing with this day, right? But you can't let it stop you. These lessons are invaluable. It cost me nearly 30 grand to actually learn these lessons. But like I said, I'm on my way to my first 6-figure year ever. So just don't stop. Never quit. Keep pushing forward. You don't know. You could be 3 feet from gold in any opportunity. I could have had a successful e-commerce business by this point, but I gave up and I stopped. Just keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward towards your goals. Do not give up. You just have to keep going. I'm sitting here, like I said, I learned these lessons the hard way. I don't want you to learn these same lessons. And that's actually why I've created a free assessment for you down in the description below. You can go ahead and check it out. It's going to score you on your avatar, your offering, your lead generation, and then even your closing, and actually spit out some scores to help you understand what your weakest link is. Then once you complete that, I'll actually give you a document that I share with my clients based on your biggest weakness that you can use to take your business to the next level. Like I said, I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did. I want you to be able to learn from these mistakes and move past them. So you can check out that assessment down in the link below. With that being said, I really hope y'all enjoyed today's video. It was an absolute pleasure to put together, a bit of a journey, a lot of nostalgia, but I really, again, hope this helps you become successful and reach time, location, financial freedom with whatever you're looking to do. That being said, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.